couple of questions for you. One to start with. As you're thinking about the 7 lessons there, the fourth one very much caught my attention on how to build community.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you have for companies or cities that are trying to build an authentic community?
Mm-hmm.
How do you make it real? How do you build those connections in a non-technological way, if you will?
Well, first think about stuff that you want to go to, right? Things that you are excited about. When you hear the average networking event, nobody says, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go network, right? You sort of say, I can't wait to go see these people or to go experience this thing. This event or this piece of art or this play or things that you can really bond over. And I think that's what you have to build these experiences around, because millennials are looking for experiences. And as we all know, what holds us to each other are the things that we share, the experiences that we share. And so when you think about programming and event planning and everything that sort of gets people out, they've got to be able to bond over the actual thing that's happening. It can't just be you're all going to be standing around and walk around shaking each other's hands and handing out business cards, because that's not authentic, and by the way, it's not fun. Whereas if you are watching a play or going to a game or doing something that you're all excited about or you can become excited about together, community builds naturally. And in a city like this where you have so much to offer, not the least of which is football, there are a lot of really great and powerful ways to do that. But you've got to think creatively and really get people out experiencing not just the city, but each other.
Great. One of the other things I was struck by as you're talking about some of these things, as we talk to heads of HR, senior executives, sometimes you hear some variant on thought of like, these people are totally different, completely crazy, fundamentally different.
Yeah.
But what I was struck by as you're mentioning a variety of things, it's not so much a difference as a difference, more of a degree difference rather than an absolute difference, if you will.
It's actually circumstances surrounding us, right? 20-somethings are always a bit entitled, or more than a bit, right? They always job hop, historically. They always want something else because they're trying to find themselves. And I think what you find now is the circumstances around us have changed. So you have these very engaged parents, as I said. You have technology that's changing the way that we relate and what we think is possible. So we're more mobile, we're more global in our thinking. And you also have, I think, a world that we've grown up in that is very scary. And scary in an immediate way, like the child next to me could be carrying a gun, or we could be bombed at any minute. And what ends up happening is that for the really thoughtful person, and for somebody who thinks they can be successful, they say, you know what, I'm not going to wait for the polar bears to be extinct and the monuments to be blown up so that I'm, can go see them in retirement. I'm going to go live my best life now. And I think that fear really is incredibly motivating, and it's especially motivating for the best in the class, so to speak. But that's something, if you can understand it, then you can really help us to be motivated and be excited. But we're not fundamentally different, as we are still human. we just have a different set of circumstances, and those circumstances are evolving much more quickly than they have historically, which is, of course, a difference as well.
Good. That's interesting. As you've talked with different companies, different organizations, whatever it might be, what is the biggest mistake that they make, the biggest assumption that they have that just turns out not to be true, or from communication, whatever it might be? What's the biggest mistake?
I'm gonna hang this on technology. I cannot tell you how many people are like, we got on the Twitter. People are using their cell phones in the office, and everybody's emailing and virtual working and whatever have you. And those things cannot build community. They only amplify or enhance what is already there. Your people are still your best asset, and that is never not going to be true. That is what we do and how we do it. And I think when you think of technology, use it as a tool, because that's what it is. Integrate it into what already exists. Use your millennials to help you lead on those fronts, and use them to help the folks up the chain kind of understand it. But thinking that every new fad and every new trend is one you have to jump on only makes you look inauthentic and a little bit silly in the long term, as opposed to actually maximizing the talent that you have in the room and using them to go tell your stories and go figure out what the best, most authentic ways are for you to share your mission.
Yeah. So just because we use the Twitter machine, we're not fully engaging the...
Yeah, just because you tweet does not mean... There are people who sign their tweets. That is a sign that you should not tweet. If you think you should sign your tweets, stop right away. Call your children.
One last question for you. It's interesting as you think about the relatively or seemingly less structured way that millennials have grown up. But when you come into an organization, there has to be some structure that's there. Perhaps less so in the past, in different ways, whatever it might be. How do you think about helping individual millennials make that transition? So if you're that boomer parent, how do how do you talk to your kid about going to the workforce without showing up on the first day of work with your millennial?
Well, I think the best advice I can give you is remember that millennials or Gen Yers are also Gen WHY. If you can give us insight into why things should be this way, as opposed to we just do it that way because we do it that way, that's really how you're going to win with this generation. And it's also a good opportunity for you to interrogate the things that you do. If you can't answer why you do things this way, that's probably an indication that it needs to change, or it could change for the better. So remembering that we're Gen WHY actually helps both us and you really characterize and put in context all of the structure that we have there, and we can kind of come to it in a mutual way, which ends up being really positive.
Great, wonderful. Well, I wanted to thank you for your time. Wonderful insights, wonderful stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. Have fun.